Good morning. It's so wonderful to be with all of you today on this beautiful April Sunday as we continue in our month-long exploration of the theme of becoming. And I am joined today with the most wonderful church staff team on the planet. And I just want to take a second to introduce them. Jen Daldeo is here and will be offering our Time for All Ages today. She is our religious education coordinator. Jen Leiden, our office administrator, will be helping us with the offertory today. And Kristine Sawyer, our business administrator, is going to be lighting our chalice and sharing our mission statement this morning. And of course, Joanne Connolly is here to tell us about music. Joanne, can you share a little about the music today?
Yes, thank you, Kirsten. This morning we're reflecting on the theme of welcoming, and we're going to sing two beloved hymns, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In, because you're welcome. And now let us sing along with other beautiful pieces chosen by Susan Adams. Enjoy the music and the service. Anything else, Kirsten?
I think that's it. Sending love to all of you.
Aging with Grace meets on Zoom this coming Wednesday, April 14th from 10 to 11:30. Our topic is learning from struggles. Come share what you have learned from the struggles in your life and to hear others. Contact Louise Hirschberg at louiseher@comcast.net or Rita Weathersby at rita.weathersby@unh.edu for Zoom information and to get onto the email list. Spring has sprung and it's time to reconnect with your South Church friends. The Fellowship Associates are planning safe, small outdoor gatherings to take place from mid-May to mid-June. Guests will wear masks when not eating or drinking and bring their own refreshments and chairs to be socially distant. To kick off this exciting event, we're looking for people to host 4 to 8 guests, including the host. Please send your name, address, contact information, number of guests you are willing to host, and the date and time of your gathering to fellowship@southchurch-uu.org. Please RSVP by April 22nd. And the South Church Book Group, in partnership with the Social Justice Associates, is hosting a discussion of how to be an anti-racist by Ibram X. Kendi on Wednesday, April 14th at 7. All are welcome. Please contact South Church Book Group at gmail.com for the Zoom link. Live your mission while engaging with others in our invaluable South Church Associate programs. The associate programs have been monumental in their efforts over the last year in carrying out their missions within our beloved community. There are still opportunities to join the learning, worship, fellowship, social justice, and pastoral associates. Please contact Shared Ministry for more information at sharedministry@southchurch-uu.org.
Hello, my name is Laura Montville, and I'm convener for Shared Ministry. The Shared Ministry group this year has been a newly formed group as we welcomed Marty Waldron and Martha Cunningham onto the group, as well as Brenda Bladen back into the fold with Carol Pevor, Martha Netch, Reverend Susan, and myself. And as many of you know, we are already in the throes of recruiting for the associate programs. Our purpose as Shared Ministry, among other things, is to match your passion with the work at hand at South Church. So whether you are interested in working with learning associates, social justice, pastoral, fellowship, or worship associates, we want to hear from you. To say the least, this has been a year full of change and transition for so many of us. And honestly, recruiting by sending an email out to you sure feels different than how we really like to do it by meeting up with you at coffee hour and having a conversation. I hope those days aren't too far off. In the meantime, we are engaging in such meaningful work. For instance, in January, as a congregation, we passed a very important bylaw change that supports a newly created shared leadership model. We as a congregation have made a commitment to working more collaboratively. The associate programs will help to shape this and so much more. For me personally, like many of you, it has been a trying year, one of loss and grief and more stress at home with teenagers trying to launch to college or doing high school remotely, or me trying to work from home and my husband trying to work from home in our tiny little house. And just when I thought I couldn't take on one more thing, it turns out that this work on shared ministry buoyed me. And the community of people here has brought me such great joy and support that I didn't think was possible. So I encourage you to consider it for yourselves. And I look forward to hearing from you if you have any questions or interest at this time. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. This is Alice O'Trainer. I'm here with the rest of the search committee this morning to give you a message about what has happened. Joanne?
I don't know about you, but I have a terrible time buying shoes. For years, I've worn custom orthotics and I have to find shoes that will accommodate them. In addition, I'm also dealing with neuropathy and the beginnings of bunions. I can't always get the pretty shoes that I see in the store, and buying entirely online, forget it. In defense of my feet, I do have two that match. They carry me just fine. They're very good at walking and dancing. I need shoes that will support and protect them, as well as make me feel good. I have learned that after I've spent several hours at Red's Shoe Barn searching through the boxes, trying on innumerable pairs, when I'm getting frustrated and hangry, this is not the time to buy shoes. Better to go home empty-handed and try again another day.
Searching for a minister is like Goldilocks going to Red's. So many choices and so few that will be just right after you get them home and wear them for a few hours.
Good morning. I'm Jim Verschuren. After submitting our congressional records, we had 21 applicants, with many very accomplished ministers among them. Through lots of reading, sermon watching, and preliminary interviews, we narrowed the field to 3 candidates whom we felt were clearly the best possible choices for our congregation. After we had an in-person pre-candidating weekend with each of the 3, we ended the process with a clear consensus first choice and ambiguous feelings about the other 2. Our first choice listed us as a yes, but we were not this minister's first choice of congregations, so we did not have a match. After much further deliberation, we decided to go home empty-handed and to try again another day.
Hi, I'm Jesse, and I speak with the search committee in saying that we are very disappointed that we are not introducing a new ministerial candidate in this announcement. We would have preferred to be the prince presenting a glass slipper on a silk pillow. Throughout this process, we have reminded ourselves often, no match is better than the wrong match. We heard from many sources that the only failed search is one that calls the wrong minister for the congregation. As with shoe shopping, perhaps it is better to go home empty-handed and to try another day.
So what happens now?
Well, we've agreed to enter the second round this cycle. The second round has a very compressed time frame and offers another opportunity to ministers who did not have a match during the first round, as well as new ministers to enter the process who did not participate in the first round. During this second round, ministers can accept only one pre-candidating weekend, which would take place in early May. We have already determined that we would not consider any candidate who we previously interviewed.
If we do not find our minister during this second round, we will participate in the upcoming search cycle, which would aim to find a new minister to join us in August of 2022. 22. Reverend Susan's willingness to stay on with us until we can call a new settled minister gave us a great deal of comfort in making the very difficult decisions we had to make.
During this search, we have learned so much about what South Church can offer to a minister and what South Church needs from a minister. We collected information from you in the congregational survey, cottage meetings, focus groups, and small group sessions. We have so much to offer and also have some really big shoes to fill. While we as a committee are sad and frustrated that we don't have better news for you today, we're confident in the next steps in the process. We thank you for your patience and support as we continue to seek ministerial leadership that will grow with us into the future. A future that will honor those from our past, whose shoulders we stand upon, and ensure that South Church lives ever more fully into our role as the liberal beacon of hope in the Seacoast and beyond.
We imagine that there's a wide range of emotions as you hear this news, and we also expect that you'll have lots of questions. In truth, there's not a lot else that we can tell you about the candidates due to the confidentiality agreement that we agreed to observe. Still, we can share more details about the process as it evolved, how we worked together as a team, what we learned about our congregation. We also learned some very interesting things from our candidates. There are heartening stories to be told, and we're compiling some of these for a service on May the 2nd. In addition, several of us will be in the chat room during social hour today. We welcome your thoughts, your reactions, and your questions. Thank you so much.
You are welcome, you are welcome, you are welcome in this place. You are welcome, you are welcome, you are welcome in this place. You are welcome, you are welcome, you are welcome in this place. You are welcome, you are welcome, you are welcome in this place. You are welcome, you are welcome, you are welcome in this place. You are welcome, you are welcome. You are welcome in this place.
Good morning. Our opening words today are actually a liturgy with a call and response between our staff team and two really wonderful congregants from South Church. Deep thanks to Emily Lusenhop and Jim Monroe, who have agreed to help lead this liturgy for Becoming this morning. This liturgy was written by a collective of faith leaders that is called Infleshed. It's a website that creates and facilitates spiritual resources for collective liberation through prayer, liturgies, art, meditations, teaching, and other resources. And you can check them out in infleshed.com. They have a really neat collection of very thoughtful things worth looking at and possibly subscribing to them.
To become is a lifelong process. Nothing is constant, not even the self. We evolve in the midst of narratives meant only for some, and ways of being made narrow by fear and power. We must then have the courage to listen to the truth of our own lives, to the wisdom that comes from within. Responding without resistance or need to control, but with welcome and curiosity. This is what ensures our becoming is an unfolding of our truest self. This lifelong labor cannot be carried out alone. It requires help from friends and lovers, family and creaturely companions who bear witness to what makes us come alive and say to us, listen, look, feel, pay attention to that.
This is loving and being loved.
Telling the stories, sharing in the memories, giving thanks for the relationships, understandings, and experiences past that have shaped us to this day.
This is loving and being loved.
Celebrating new beginnings that excite, holding risks together, leaning into unknowns with the promise of support and companionship.
This is loving and being loved.
Listening to the future, calling uniquely to each of us in the midst of all of life's noise, helping one another find our place in the shared labor of collective life, supporting each other in what it is the world's ache is asking from us.
This is loving and being loved.
To say for the first time, this is who I am. This is the truth of my body. This is what I know about myself. This is my name, and this is where my path is leading me. And to have it heard, have it received, have it affirmed, and then to say it again and again as we change, as the world changes, and to have each proclamation greeted with an open-armed embrace.
This is loving and being loved.
There is no me without you. We shape one another. The sacred that birthed us weaves our lives together so that we can only find ourselves through shared becoming. For my journey and all its winding ways, for yours, for all the saints who labored for what it is, all the kin whose lives made ours possible, for all those yet to come for whom living our truths today will mean breaking possibilities open for them tomorrow. We pause, we give thanks, we acknowledge.
This is loving and being loved.
As we light our chalice this morning, I share these words from Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh. Life is too precious for us to lose ourselves in our ideas and concepts, in our anger and our despair. We must wake up to the marvelous reality of life. We must begin to live fully and truly every moment of our daily lives. Please join me as we recite our mission statement. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people, and we inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community.
And to rejoice and come in, and to rejoice and come in. Today will be a joyful day, and to rejoice and come in. Open your ears to the song, open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day, and to rejoice and come in. Don't be afraid of some change, don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day, and to rejoice and come in.
Good morning. I've just been sitting out here listening to the birds. Have you noticed all the new sounds in the air in the last few weeks? Anyway, I have a new story for you today that I call Mint Buddies. One day, Ray was sitting on a bench eating mint chocolate chip ice cream cone. Then that thing happened that so many of us have experienced. The ice cream fell right off the cone and went splat on the ground. Ugh, that's so frustrating when that happens. Bobby saw this happen and saw that green treat leap to its demise and instantly recognized that disappointment, having also experienced just a few weeks before. So Bobby ran into the ice cream shop and bought 2 identical mint chocolate chip ice cream cones, walked to where Ray was sitting and offered one of the cones, and the two of them introduced themselves. They really easily got into a conversation, first about how satisfying ice cream is on a warm summer day, and then they naturally branched into other topics like the weather and how nice the bakery looks now that it's been repainted, and other things like that. Ray and Bobby enjoyed each other's company for a while, and then they said, "It was nice to meet you. Have a nice afternoon. Thanks for the ice cream," and things like that. And then they went their separate ways. And several times in the next few days, they each thought of how nice that time together had been. Well, about a week later, Ray walked into town and saw Bobby sitting on the bench where they had met a week before. So Ray quickly ran into the ice cream shop, bought 2 mint chocolate chip ice cream cones, went to the bench and handed one to Bobby. Bobby's eyes lit up at the surprise, and the 2 new friends again found it easy to talk to each other. This time they talked about books they'd been reading, and they pointed out different birds they could see. Turns out they both liked birds. And they talked about games they liked to play. It was great. And then they said they're nice to see yous and have good days, but this time they planned to meet again the following week. Same spot, same time. In the following days, Ray and Bobby each mentioned to people how they had made a friend by bonding over mint chocolate chip ice cream. It was their thing, being mint chocolate chip friends. And as the weeks went on, they became close friends. They would meet for mint ice cream and talk or play the games that they both liked, and it was really fun. When the weather got cooler, they would take turns meeting first at Ray's house and the next week at Bobby's, and each week the visitor would pick up a pint of mint ice cream for the 2 to share. And the weeks became months and then even years. And while they didn't eat ice cream at every visit, it still was kind of their thing. They'd often share mint ice cream and their families would refer to them as mint buddies. Well, just like almost every relationship, the 2 friends got to a point where they would occasionally disagree about things. And once in a while, they'd even argue. But the things that they had bonded over all along sustained them, and they always managed to work through whatever problems came up. Once they got through an argument, they'd make up over mint chocolate chip ice cream, and everything would be smooth again. At some point, when Bobby and Ray had been friends for a bunch of years, there was a big misunderstanding. Today, nobody remembers what it was about, but at the time it felt like a really big deal. Both friends were feeling really hurt about what had happened. By this point, they both loved each other deeply enough that they knew that even though they each were hurt, they valued their friendship enough to try to work it out. On Wednesday, both Ray and Bobby grabbed 2 spoons, went to the markets, and they each bought a pint of mint chocolate chip ice cream since each knew it was the other one's favorite. They both set out walking toward each other's house, and then they crossed paths somewhere in between. And even though they felt hurt and nervous and a little awkward about seeing each other, they couldn't help but laugh when they saw that they both had the same idea. It was a good start. They sat there right there on the ground, and they talked about what had happened, which again, nobody remembers the details of today. But after they had finished the ice cream and said their apologies and that they loved each other and all the other words that needed to be said, they felt closer than ever. They both knew that their friendship had become really important over the years, and the foundation they had built had let them become their whole selves, both together and individually. Except there was this one thing. Bobby had been holding on to something that was a bit of a lie. It started out innocent enough, but it had gone on for all these years, and now it was feeling not right anymore. This felt like the moment to be really honest about it. Bobby kind of worked up a little courage and said, "Ray, I have a confession. There's something that I haven't been honest about since the start." Ray froze, waiting to hear what this could be. Bobby continued, "Well, I need to tell you that I don't really like the taste of mint chocolate chip ice cream so much. I'm really more of a peanut butter cup ice cream person. I've always eaten mint because it's your favorite and I haven't minded, but sometime I'd really like to have a different flavor." Ray laughed. "I am so happy to hear that. I like cherry vanilla myself. The day we met, I had decided to try mint and realized I wasn't really the biggest fan of it. But it seemed like it was your favorite, so I always wanted to have it for you." You see, when they met, they ate mint ice cream to become friends. And now, in this moment, they shared their true selves, which is sometimes a really big deal. And then those two stopped eating mint ice cream to become even closer friends. I hope you have an adventurous day. I love you, and I hope to see you really soon.
It's now time for the morning offertory. Thanks to your nominations and votes, our shared plate recipient this month is CASA of New Hampshire. Court-appointed Special Advocates, or CASA, is a nonprofit that recruits, trains, and supports community volunteers to serve as advocates for abused or neglected children throughout the state. Payments can be made through the South Church website or by mailing them to 73 Court Street in Portsmouth. Please give as you are able.
For this precious day, for all gathered here, and those far away, for this time we share, with love and care, we give thanks, for this precious day.
I invite you now into a time of meditation and prayer. You are loved, you are held. Please know you are invited to write in your own requests for prayers in the chat box or to contact us at church if there's anything you need. Our prayer this morning is written by Andrée. It's titled, "All That We Share is Sacred." This blessing was written in honor of two Unitarians, Martha and Waitzel Sharp, who, during World War II, dared to risk their own comfort in order to help save the lives of those in desperate need. as we gather together. May we remember when you share with me what is most important to you, that is where listening begins. When I show you that I hear you, when I say your life matters, that is where compassion begins. When I open the door to greet you, that is where hospitality begins. When I venture out to bring you to shelter, that is where love begins. When I risk my comfort to ease your suffering, when I act against hatred, violence, and injustice, that is where courage begins. When we experience the full presence of each other, because of our shared humanity, because of our differences, that is where holy gratitude begins. May this space be a table that is not complete until all are welcome. May this table be a space of beauty where together we create a series of miracles and where all that we share is sacred. May it be so. The Desert Fathers were early Christian hermits who lived in an Egyptian desert beginning around the 3rd century AD. Theologian Barbara Brown Taylor writes, "The wisdom of the Desert Fathers includes the wisdom that the hardest spiritual work in the world is to love the neighbor as the self, to encounter another human being not as someone you can use, change, fix, help, save, enroll, convince, or control, but simply as someone who can spring you from the prison of yourself, if you will allow it. All you have to do is recognize another you out there, your other self in the world, for whom you may care as instinctively as you care for yourself. To become that person, even for a moment, is to understand what it means to die to yourself. This can be as frightening as it is liberating. It may be," she writes, "the only real spiritual discipline there is." The year is 2010. maybe 2011, and my second born, around 4 or 5 years old, is throwing a tantrum. We are up in his room and he is angry. This fit has been playing out for some time, and I'm absolutely certain he needs to have some space from me in order for it to pass. But he doesn't seem to recognize or agree with me about this. And so I tell him to stay in his room, that I'm going downstairs, and he is not to follow. He respects me enough that he follows slowly, but he still follows. First, just standing outside his door as I walk downstairs, then moving after me one step at a time, sliding his socked foot to the edge, slipping down to the next stair landing, never breaking eye contact with me, who, standing at the bottom of the stairs now, is trying to find the exact words to compel him to just stop and take a few minutes to calm down. Step after step until he is 4 steps from the bottom, and I say that all too common and utterly opaque parent phrase, "So help me." Do not step on this bottom step. And he is mad. And he looks at me, trying, I think, to gauge if I actually have a consequence in mind, or if he cares. And then I see a flash of light in his eyes and the slightest glimpse of a smirk. And he steps down to the second to last step and then stretches his leg long, past the bottom step, and presents himself before me, the victor, who has found a loophole to my mandate. Now I have to make a decision. And probably before I can even process my options, my face has already revealed to this young person that his chess move has broken through my parental resolve. In his unwillingness to respect my boundary, he somehow switched places with me. It is now suddenly in my hands whether to accept his offer, an offer to spring from my own prison, to recognize another me out there in him, another way to end the tantrum, one where he could keep control, save face, but which required me to put aside my own control. I want to say that I did so with abandon, that I erupted in laughter at the incredible magnificence of this small human in whom I could see all of the same needs I have myself. I wasn't quite that skillful, but I did allow myself to smile at his cleverness. And that was enough for him. The conflict faded. His solution gave him needed control, and I grew as a parent and as a human being in my awareness of the power of giving in, of giving over. This past October, a dear friend of mine lost his mom to cancer. His family, like so many others, had to navigate that deep loss in the midst of the COVID pandemic. So they gathered for a memorial on Zoom. I didn't know his mother well, only met her once or twice, but I had heard stories about her for years. Doris Prouty was a remarkable woman who touched many, many lives. I went to the memorial because of my friendship with her son, as a witness to the person who made him, to hold him in love and to express my thanks to her spirit. His eulogy for his mom was beautiful. In it, he shared a story that I have thought about over and over again. I can't do it justice, but I will do my best. He described a moment with her in his early adolescence when he had done something wrong. His mom was not one to punish severely, but she was flustered enough about whatever he had done that she told him for the first time ever that she was going to wash his mouth out with soap. He pauses in telling the story at this point to point out that by adolescence, a son really has to agree to a punishment like that. It was not something his mom could likely enforce without his sheepish participation. He described how he acquiesced, following her to the bathroom and biting into the bar of soap. The way he recalled this moment evoked such a familiar feeling, the two of them almost playful in moving through the steps like a dance. The son giving in to his parent, allowing her to guide him toward a better version of himself. I imagine the taste of the soap is a part of why he still remembers that moment. But I think also it has stayed with him because of how powerful it is to give oneself over to another. We learn how to release ourselves to someone else through the relationships in our lives. From friends and lovers, family and creaturely companions, as was said in this morning's Litany for Becoming. There is no me without you. We shape one another. The sacred that birthed us weaves our lives together so that we can only find ourselves through shared becoming. For my journey and all its winding ways, for yours. This is loving and being loved. And I know both my stories center the relationship between parent and child, mother and son, but I assure you there are infinite opportunities in our lives to love the neighbor as thyself. And each time we allow ourselves into that spiritual practice, each time we recognize another me out there, each time we become that person, even for a moment, we progress in our own becoming. What is church but a space that intentionally invites us into the work of becoming together? A space where we choose to come because we recognize that we need another to do this work. And if that is the essence of this space, then every one of us is someone who can spring me from the prison of myself if I will allow it. When I use that lens to think about our faith, I feel ready for the work we still have to do in building the space for our mutual becoming. I feel less mournful about what is not yet built and more motivated for what is still to come. There is patience, forgiveness, grace in the idea of becoming together with others. There is no expectation that the work is done, but an ongoing reminder that there is work before us. And if we are not ready to bite into a bar of soap or to throw our heads back and laugh with abandon, that does not mean we have failed. There will be another opportunity in the journey ahead, if we allow it. Next week, there is scaffolding going up around our beloved sanctuary. They will be pulling down a slate roof that has sheltered this sacred space for nearly 2 centuries. This community has come together to raise a roof that will carry us into the next century and beyond. I wonder what we will become, how we will live into our values under the solid protection of this place we continue to build together. What a blessing it is to be in each other's company on this journey of becoming.
Now let us sing to the power of the hope within. Now let us sing to the power of the hope within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid, Now let us sing to the power of the hope within. Now let us sing to the power of the love within. Now let us sing to the power of the love within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid, Now let us sing to the power of the love within. Now let us sing to the power of the joy within. Now let us sing to the power of the joy within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the joy within.
Ready when you are.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our benediction this morning is a poem titled The Springboard by Adrienne Rich. Like divers, we ourselves must make the jump that sets the top board bounding underfoot, clean as an axe blade driven in a stump. But afterward, what makes the body shoot into its pure and irresistible curve is of a force beyond all bodily powers. So action takes velocity with a verve, swifter, more sure than any will of ours.